What does a scarlet thread have to do with God's plan of salvation? The answer lies in the word scarlet. In chapter 2 of the book of Joshua, there's a story of Rahab who tied a cord of scarlet thread in her window in order to help the spies that Joshua sent into Jericho to escape the pursuit of the king of Jericho. The English word scarlet comes from the medieval Latin word scarlatum, which means cloth of scarlet. Hence, the word scarlet is attested as the name of a color, a highly chromatin and brilliant red. The Latin term for scarlet comes from the word coccus, which means tiny grain. The finest scarlets in ancient times were made from the tiny insect called kermes, which fed on certain oak trees. There is a particular kermes that is only found in Israel. It is called kermes vermilio. This little insect is the key source in ancient times for the precious dye color called crimson. The word crimson itself comes from the word kermes. An interesting aspect about this little insect is what it goes through in order to birth its young. While the insects are born with legs, the females eventually lost the use of their legs. Hence, they were given the designation of a worm, kermes. When the female was ready to give birth to her young, she would attach her body to the trunk of an oak tree, fixing herself firmly and permanently to the oak tree. The eggs deposited beneath her body were thus protected until the larvae were hatched and able to enter their own life cycle, all the while feeding on their mother for initial sustenance before going forth into the world. As the mother died, the crimson fluid stained her body and the oak tree. It is from the dead bodies of such female scarlet worms that the scarlet dyes were extracted. The word worm in Hebrew is tola'ah. In Psalm 22, verse 6, David makes a declaration: I am a worm and not a man, a scorn of men and despise of people. In Hebrew, it reads, Anoki tola'at. David was prophetically writing about Jesus, the Messiah, who makes the claim that he is not to be understood merely as what he is in appearance, a man, but rather with what his true purpose entails, which is to come to die on the cross for the sins of humanity, so that humanity will be spared from the consequences of sins, otherwise known as God's plan of salvation. The last letter in the Hebrew word tola'at is the Hebrew letter tav, which has the pictogram of two wooden sticks in cross formation, an allusion to the cross upon which Jesus the Messiah will be crucified. The word tola'at, as it appears in Psalm 22, verse 6, has the idea of sacrificial worm connected to the cross. That is the link to Jesus' purpose by dying on the cross to bring forth a generation to God. When Jesus called himself a worm, what it means simply is this: Jesus took upon himself a nature of a seemingly insignificant insect that gave itself for humanity and for the future of its offsprings. The story of Rahab tying a rope of scarlet thread in her window should never be interpreted just literally. To do so is to rob ourselves of the hidden insights that are shrouded beyond the literal.